everyone. I want to first just start off that I have an extensive notes, so I'm going to be referring to those so I'll stay on topic and don't miss any important details. So I'm presenting for first reading the new display policy, which is essential in how we communicate the purpose of our displays within our libraries. I will say, first and foremost, this policy reflects common language and practices across many libraries. If you were to put in library display policy, you'd be like, okay, Barbara just copied this from many other libraries. So again, this is really common language, and also it's a very common policy. It is uncommon not to have one, and I'll get more into that as we go. So again, libraries have legal protection under the First Amendment that support their ability to make content-based display decisions, which allow us to provide a wide range of perspectives and uphold intellectual freedom. By adopting this policy, we aim to offer clear guidance to our staff, planning and implementing, while transparently informing the public about the purpose and the criteria behind these choices. So starting with the first off is the purpose of the display policy. I won't read everything word for word. I'm hoping you had a chance to go through it. So the purpose is fairly clear. It also, again, is informed by the American Library Association, by the Bill of Rights, freedom to read, and freedom to view statements. The scope also, again, pretty standard. Yeah, just saying that we maintain displays throughout our libraries that showcase our diverse collections, highlight cultural and educational and local interests, and connect people to resources and opportunities. So that is actually part of our mission statement. And please interrupt me if you have any questions. So the statement of policy, the very first part says NCW Libraries has the sole direction for initiating and curating displays. So my comments for that, just so you know why we chose that. So by initiating displays internally, we can thoughtfully plan themes that connect to broader community or national events, holidays, or programs, and ensure that they are in line with our collection development policy. It allows us to effectively manage the limited space available, ensuring that displays are support the library's overall strategic direction, and minimizing any potential legal liability. So when I say that, that's again, the legal liability includes inaccurate or misinformation, conflict with the library's mission and policies, and offensive or harmful material, such as hate speech or obscenity. So again, this is just saying that we have the sole discretion for initiating and curating displays in all of our libraries. So going on, including but not limited to collections, items, promotional materials, flags, or other items, these displays are used to highlight new and relevant materials, educate the public on a variety of subjects, genres, and formats that inspire curiosity in the library's collections, services, and resources. When we talk about joining the American Library Association, the Library of Congress, and other national organizations, what we're saying is it's important to remember that equity sometimes means providing extra visibility and support to those who have been historically marginalized, to ensure that they can access the same opportunities and feel the same sense of belonging as everyone else. Any questions, please?
On the line where it talks about the library's values, that's always it's always interesting to talk about an organization's values, because values is such a personal kind of has personal intonations, right? Our values statement, if somebody wanted to question, well, what's the meaning of that? What's the library district's values? It would be published in our strategic plan and mission statement, correct, would be on our website, available to the public.
The value statements.
Values.
Yeah, we just right now just refer to them, and there are other values. The board hasn't adopted value statements at this point.
Okay.
Right.
If we don't have published values, it's hard to state that what they're going to reflect in a policy. So it's just something to be careful about, right?
Barbara, this is Nancy. As we heard earlier from our friends from Republic, they would like a larger voice in the displays and the materials that are included in the displays in their libraries, not to exclude anyone, but to make the library feel more welcoming and inclusive to the whole community, which, as you guys are probably aware by now, it's a pretty conservative little community. I'm disturbed by the fact that the language in this policy completely diminishes any role for the patrons. They're basically told, you can fill out a comment card and, go away. And I don't think that's either productive or respectful. I'd like to have some language included in this to include, I don't know, a patrons committee suggesting displays or requesting, what do you want to call it? I can't come up with a word right now. Accommodation, I think, is a word I'm stretching for. I think there needs to be more of a dialogue between the needs of the patrons in the community and the library district somehow. And I know the people in Republic who came to visit us today are feeling pretty shut down and shut out of their own library that they pay for.
Well, I can add that our goal, of course, is to balance community representation, library resources, and our commitment to intellectual freedom and diversity. But I will also add, library staff are trained to develop and present content that adheres to established policies and ethical standards. And again, through careful planning, our staff are the experts. I'm just going to say our staff are the experts in this field.
I'm sorry, Barbara, I hate to interrupt you on this point. The patrons who use the library are the experts in their own lives and in the needs of the community. And while the staff is all very well trained in collection management and the day-to-day operations of the library, they're not the experts in the viewpoints of the community. And I think it would be very positive to have some kind of a patrons committee to help the staff serve the needs of the community more fully.
I will also
Isn't
add
that the friends groups? I mean, that's what our friends groups.
Well, we do have a friends group. Their role at least in the Republic Library, is more of a fundraising, promote the library and raise funds so that we can have a new library in Republic. And the group of citizens that attended today, I believe, supports that goal of the friends group, but they're also representing a group of people in the community that have felt deliberately shut out of the library. And I think that is a different process. Like, we need to be able to have policies in place that allow patrons more of a voice in the library. Yes, the staff is the experts in running the library, but the community members are our patrons and our taxpayers, and they are the ones that are the experts in their library needs. And we're not listening to these people in Republic when they tell us that they're not able to to visit the library because they're being excluded. So the Friends group does have an important voice, but when there's a group of patrons that feel excluded and want some accommodation, just like we've accommodated other disenfranchised groups, we need to be willing to accommodate every disenfranchised group.
I would like to look at the bullet points there under the statement of policy. There's the second paragraph that starts with NCW Library staff And I think, and Nancy, this is to kind of follow up on, I think, where you're going. It says library staff use the following criteria in making decisions about display topics, materials, and accompanying resources. Interest, information, and enlightenment of all people in the community the library serves. So here we're essentially empowering library staff to reflect the interest, information, and enlightenment of all people in the community the library serves. So we are including all patrons in this statement, but we're empowering the staff. What we don't elucidate, I think, in the policy, and I don't think necessarily we need to, is how our staff are ascertaining all the interests, information, and enlightenment of all members of the community. So if we can have some sort of, process, maybe from the staff training point of view, I don't think it needs to be in a policy, but how is it that our staff members gather the interest and information and values of their community members such that they can feel empowered to create displays that adequately reflect all members of their community, right? I think that these two sentences is really where the rubber meets the road. And I don't think we want to get too nitty gritty in our policy statement to say, this is exactly how we're going to inform our staff. And I think it is reaching too far to say in a policy that we are going to give over too much of our library's curatorial and information expertise to its patrons. I think we need to preserve the professionalism of the librarian's role and the institution's role in our collections and display management, but we do need to maybe strengthen the wording around the fact that library staff is indeed trained and empowered in understanding the interests of their community members.
It could be as simple as just saying in the larger regional community and the local community. Just leave it at that.
Unfortunately, this community group has been reaching out to Barbara for quite a long time. They've had me in their email chain. And for whatever reason, the response to this particular group is that the library is following board policy and that the board is responsible for the policies that are making their library feel unsafe to them. So it's incumbent upon us to create policy that has some kind of accommodation for a citizens committee to, if necessary, it's not always necessary, but in this case it is, where the staff and the citizens and maybe a mediator from the district office can work to find a resolution for problems when everybody seems stuck, which is what seems to be happening in this place. I do not appreciate being the bad guy in my community because the board has defined a policy that allows my community members to feel excluded from the library. They're not trying to exclude anyone else. They want a library that feels open and inclusive to the entire community. And I want a policy that gives them a process to bring grievances forward and work with staff to find solutions to problems in a meaningful way. Right now, they're being told the board is creating a policy, we're just following board policy. Well, here's where the rubber meets the road. We need a board policy that allows, that sets up some kind of policy, some kind of process, a process for patrons who feel disenfranchised, who have concerns, to work with local staff and district staff to find some kind of a solution.
I think it's absolutely unacceptable for any one of our tax-paying patrons to feel unsafe in any one of our libraries,
I was
period.
gonna ask that, that's the second time I've heard
Period.
it safe.
Yeah.
The people before that spoke mentioned they don't feel safe, and you just said safe. So what's the safety concern about this?
They don't feel safe visiting the library or taking their families into the library.
What's the safety concern specifically?
The safety concern specifically, they feel like the library has displays and materials that are not meeting their families' needs or their beliefs. It's just
Sounds
not a
like valid
good space for
concern, but I'm
them.
not hearing safety in any of that. I'm hearing a concern. But
Well-
I'm hearing anything safety-wise.
Their language is safety. They do not feel safe. And I'm just bringing that language forward to the board. This is why we need some type of process so that we can get to the bottom of these concerns from the citizens. I don't think it's proper for the board to have a generic policy that excludes the patrons' concerns.
Nancy, we have never had a display policy before. What we're looking at here is a draft policy. What the answers have been in the past is that we have done displays. We have allowed the staff in the libraries to do displays. We have encouraged displays that are often federally described displays. Hispanic Heritage Month, African American History Month, Pride Month, Women's History Month, et cetera, et cetera. All of those have been ways for us to demonstrate that we have in our collection materials that might be of interest to our patrons. There hasn't been a way to define the policy. This is the way to define the policy. And I believe that what Denise has said is that we have in that very last paragraph with the bullet points below it, we have a process. We say here that our staff is trying to do this, and her discussion or her point about training staff, I think is quite valid. So if these people are not feeling psychologically safe, there is a process here we're talking about within this policy, and they have an opportunity to talk about if they want a display to be reconsidered. That is exactly the same process that we have for reconsidering any materials in our libraries anywhere.
I don't think this draft policy includes enough language in it. I don't think this simple sentence that is in these bullet points is enough to address the concerns that our library patrons are bringing forward. I think there needs to be something more added to this draft policy. I'm happy to have further discussion with Barbara or the other staff or any of the board members. I don't want to take up a lot of time on this. I just think there's something missing from this draft policy because, and I know there's something missing because my patrons are coming to you saying, we have a problem in our library. We'd like you to consider our simple proposal about flag displays and why it's important for them to have a simple flag display policy. This draft policy completely ignores the concerns that they brought to us at the beginning of the meeting. My patrons pay taxes for the library, and they would like to have a say in the flags and the displays that are in their library so that they can feel comfortable and happy and welcome when they want to go to the library. Right now, they do not feel welcome, they feel excluded. And I don't think that's proper. When we are in communities that, let's say, that are Hispanic speaking communities, we try to meet the needs of those communities. The community of Republic isn't any different from any other smaller population that we should not cater to the culture of that community just like we would any other community culture.
Thank you. Does anybody else have some input on this draft policy?
What are next steps from here, Barbara? It strikes me that this is just the first step in probably, a series of refining this policy and then ensuring that all of our branches are in alignment with the policy and that we have some, procedural operations defined underneath this policy to assess our current, displays and decision-making therein. And so maybe you can tell us about what kind of work you foresee after we adopt a policy like this.
So if the policy was to be adopted today, then the next steps, of course, would be working with our team to come up with just the standards of how we develop those displays, as well as, procedures. That's on me. And that's kind of what I was kind of headed towards, is that, once that's the board's purview, is to, of course, approve the policy, and then and then focusing on the supporting the library's overall direction, and then of course trusting the staff to implement this policy and using the professional standards is what I'm asking for. So.
Do you want anything more from us before we bring this back?
I've only heard again about the kind of more information about the bullet points from Denise.
Yeah, I think that if we're going to use, I think this is a very important policy, and I think the board needs to spend some time, and we just received the copy of this, only days ago. And so I think it's really prudent for us to really spend some time looking over this carefully before we vote on it. Even, with a red line, we need to spend some time with this. So, my two comments were, if we are going to use the term the library's values, we need to have those values published somewhere and agreed upon. And then two, I would like to have some sort of a statement in there that talks about how staff is trained to understand the diverse and reflect the values that, and I don't know exactly how to phrase that, but I think that there is a little bit of a jump there in our language that just needs to somehow be illustrated with an additional sentence somehow. So I'm happy to kind of play with some possibilities.
Yeah, but considering the needs of the local branches in addition to the
Yeah.
overall
Right.
philosophy and values of.
It's very similar to what we're doing with Reimagining Spaces, where we're in that process, we're soliciting, community impact on what you want to see in your libraries and what purpose it serves. And I think there can be some sort of ongoing dialogue that we have that informs our staff as to what the priorities of the community are, without somehow sacrificing or diminishing their, expertise and authority over what happens in their libraries.
Yeah, and I would say some of that work is already being done. Through programs that we also provide. There's plenty of programs in Republic that reflect that community, like the Ukulele Jam. There's a lot of, I don't know what to call it, the arts and, but again, there also, and I just want to reiterate, there is also a process for people to, leave comments. I want to say we do value everybody's feedback. We do. It's really important to us to receive that feedback, and again, getting constructive dialogue. I also want to say, just really quickly, kind of a side note, I'll bring it back, is I have responded to every one of the emails that I have received from the community, and continue to do so, whether it's, any community member that contacts me directly, we always respond in a timely manner. But there, like I said, there is a route for people to submit their ideas for to the board, but then we also have a community process as well. So
I'm worried that, did Nancy drop off? Or is that?
No, I'm here.
she's here.
Oh, okay, cause I'm not seeing you, so, on my end. So I have not said much, cause I'm trying to listen and trying to understand both sides. I feel like there's a bit of an elephant in the room, but I'm not sure that I'm willing to say what that might be, but, I don't know that this is, again, in the policy or if it is part of the procedure, but there is this part about, the word safety, and I'm only safe if I take away somebody else's thing that makes them feel safe. So there is that, if we're gonna ask people, our librarians, to facilitate a conversation in communities around those topics, that is going to take a true facilitator, right? It's not, how to say this, those are huge political issues that can turn into really ugly kinds of things. And so unless there is an experienced mediator that can take communities through those processes, I think we are asking a lot of our library staff.
I really appreciate that comment, Nancy. I feel like that's kind of what's going on right now, that there's a need for a skilled mediator to work in Republic with these community members to try to create an environment that doesn't sacrifice the safety of one group for the safety of another group. That I feel like the space needs to be politically neutral rather than politically volatile. And I just want to open a dialogue with everyone so that we can explore ways to accomplish that in Republic. Unfortunately, while Barbara has responded to everyone that I know of, not always in a timely manner, but she has usually responded. Her response has been to hide behind the board and board policy, and I do not. If it's up to us, then I'm stepping forward. We need in these policies to make it very clear that local patrons, when they have concerns, when they have requests, we need a process in place through policy or procedure to address concerns like this. And don't hide behind me as a board member instead of resolving problems. They could have had a meeting in Republic with these people 3 or 4 months ago, and it hasn't happened. I don't know why. They've invited Barbara to come meet with them. They were told it wasn't going to be a productive meeting. So they've coming to us because they have tried to work with Barbara, and they don't know what else to do because Barbara said it's up to board policy. So here we are. The board is being requested to get into the nuts and bolts of these policies, and if that's going to be delegated to us, then I'm challenging all of us. We need to be very seriously looking at these policies so that they're flexible enough to meet the needs of every community, and that every community has a voice in their library. They are paying the taxes, they are supporting us, they need a voice.
And on that note, I have received positive comments from the community members of Republic appreciating the diversity and that is being presented at the Republic Library. So again, I would caution that we did have several members of the community show up today, but I have not had the opportunity to solicit feedback from everybody in that community. There are a list of population I'm sorry, I don't remember.
I think it's roughly 3,000 people served by the public library. I would have to double check.
So, I mean, if that's the way I'm just throwing that out as a comment. And I have one I just want to read. I just wanted to say thank you for everything that the library offers our community. I live in Republic. I'm glad that the library promotes inclusion and diversity. I attended I attend at least once a week with my young son. We enjoy story time and we love being able to check out our books. My son is 1.5 and is already a very avid reader. The library helps a lot with his early education and I appreciate it so much. I know that there is a very vocal portion of our community which has been on a crusade against the library since Pride Month, and I'm very disappointed in how they are behaving. I just want to let you know that I appreciate everything you guys do and thank you so much. The second one, I have recently noticed some comments on Facebook about the Republic Library displaying the Pride flag. I just want to say that I am very happy that the library is displaying the Pride flag. I love to see support for diversity and acceptance of all in our community, and thank you and have a great day.
This has been a wide-ranging discussion, which I think was the intent. Barbara sent us out that reminder that we would really be thinking about this policy in its draft form. I think that she has heard and we have heard several points of view. And at this point, I'm going to say that we are finished with this discussion for today. I'm going to look forward to working with Barbara and bringing back either the finished policy or the next version of this policy. And I would say that if you have specific interests or if you want to wordsmith, talk to her, email her. Any other comments before we?
So I just have a food for thought comment. And this is what I learned at the one library meeting that we had, conference that we went to that was in Wenatchee. There was a person there that said, and I just think we take this away with us, it doesn't have the policy, but it stuck with me that actually everyone who walks into my library should be offended by something that is in the library. And then I feel like I've done my job. So I have carried that with me for a long time, that it is, our libraries are supposed to have, so it's easy for me to be on one side of this argument, right? Because I believe strongly in that side, but I want to listen to both sides because it is true. And those things may be in those libraries, but we're not, but maybe there's just a different way of helping communities understand that everything is in the library. That it, I could walk into a library and I'm sure I could find a couple books that really I would want to throw out the door, right? But they're supposed to be there. So anyway, that's just my last food for thought.